We'll talk with Tom Murphy now as he joins the Morning Rush, Arkansas Democrat-Gazette, Whole Hog Sports. Tom, we will talk some football, but stay on baseball real quick. One of the guys that I've been pretty impressed with at this point is Peyton Stovall. Here's a true freshman that comes in highly heralded out of Louisiana and has just been really productive at the plate. What have you thought about his hitting and really just what he's been doing at first base in this regional?
Well, hey, guys, it's an interesting way to start. He's, after his slow start, he was batting leadoff, and he kind of, I'd say, dropped off our radar a little bit. Had the time when he hurt his hand, but he has been solid. There's some guys who've done some more, louder stuff, like Wallace and Turner and, Lanzilli. They've done some louder thing in battles with the Grand Slam, but Stovall's gotten on base a ton, and that's one of the reasons why their lineup has been so productive, that he's getting on a lot, and then Gregory with the, hit by pitches, and he had a big single in the ninth inning last night too. That's why they're scoring so many runs. Is they're getting some production up and down the lineup.
So Tommy was just talking about the pitching heading into tonight. Connor Nolan has a really strong Game 1 performance and saves the bullpen at least for that game, and then couldn't really save it in Games 2 and 3. But pitching wise tonight, what are you expecting, Tom, out of both parties as they try and Johnny Holstaff it through tonight's game?
Well, exactly, and I tend to agree with Tommy that Oklahoma State's gotten themselves in a better position with, I guess, more arms. The Trevor Martin guy's probably not available, but because he threw 6 1/3 or whatever he threw in the 29-14 game against Missouri State, that saved them from having to use a bunch of guys. I mean, they knew they had to do it that way. Oklahoma State got really fortunate that he did that, and then Stone, that Arkansas couldn't just really rack up Stone. They scored runs, but they couldn't just power ahead of him. And he gave them pitched into the 7th inning. So I think that was really beneficial for them. And, I would think that Arkansas will use they could use 7 or 8 pitchers. And they're having trouble getting guys to have Oklahoma State hit their pitch. The wind is blowing out a little bit, and it's very, very offensive regional, and I expect the Razorbacks to score a ton of runs tonight too. I mean, we could have ourselves another 4-hour plus game, another huge shootout tonight, which has been kind of the staple there. But you think that Zebulon Vermillion could give them some good innings today? Hagen Smith certainly could, I would think, come back on 2 days rest or a day rest and give them some pitches. Who knows? I mean, even Jackson Wiggins might even be able to give them a few pitches. But I think they've gotten to the point where, Starks was up a few times yesterday, and he came in and he got 1 out. They might have to rely on a guy like Starks or Trest or Heston Toll or something to give them 2 or 3 innings at a crucial time. I mean, anything can happen with the pitching tonight. That's what makes these regional finales wild after so many runs have been scored.
We had a text earlier into the show, and I thought it was an interesting question, particularly after last year and how Kevin Kopps insisted he wanted the baseball to start that deciding game of the Super Regional. I just wonder, Tom, did anyone on this pitching staff go to Dave, go to Matt Hobbs and say, I want the ball tonight? How many of those guys win, and how much easier would that make the decision or tougher depending on the numbers that went there?
Yeah, that's a great question. These kids, they want to do it for the team, and I would think that several guys have said I'm available, and I'm talking about probably Hagen Smith and maybe Jackson Wiggins too, and then guys who've already worked. Now, Will McIntyre is the one you'd have to worry about pitching on 3 straight days and as many innings as he threw yesterday, so probably want to tend to stay away from him. But man, his stint yesterday was just so huge because Oklahoma State didn't blow up on him as they have on some other guys. Is there concern for guys like Tigert? Yeah, I think so. And Taylor, too, with the throwing errors yesterday. So it's going to be truly a puzzle and a mix and match do we use relievers that we've used in both these other games? Do we bring in some fresh guys? Do we use guys who've been starters? I mean, Nolan clearly probably went to them and said, I can throw tonight, and they used him in the ninth inning. Now, I did not have the ESPN, deal, and I didn't see it, but the way Phil Elson described the play, Zach Gregory might have a play on the ball. I mean, he might be able to catch the ball. It's a sinking liner, but he slipped. So otherwise, maybe he makes that catch and you got 2 outs. Maybe you get out of that. But that's just been the craziness of this regional, that plays like that have happened. And, and Arkansas showed a lot of mettle, tying it in the bottom of the ninth on Brady Slavens' 2-out hit.
Mm-hmm.
It's been I was reading the quotes from today. Both these coaches are like, I've never seen anything quite like this. I've never seen runs scored like this. And then Josh Holliday obviously saying, I've never seen a day of competition like the day they had when they scored 29 and then 14.
Long, exhausting day at the ballpark for Oklahoma State fans who had 2 5-hour marathons. I just got to believe that Dave is going to go with veteran arms tonight. And I would think Vermillion, you mentioned him earlier, Cole Ramage. Connor Nolan had 21 pitches last night and a third of an inning of work. I wouldn't rule him out tonight, but I think those veteran arms would be the ones that at least to start the game, or the first few pitchers out of the pen, would be the ones they might look to first.
Yeah, Zach Morris might be available some, even though he pitched a decent bit the day before yesterday. But yeah, they've got tough decisions. How much can we get out of who? And I think you're right. I think the veterans are going to get more of the shot. But everybody's got to be ready. I mean, Gabe Starks has got to be ready because he can bring it. And what if he's really on? Toll and Trest, those guys. And Ramage, he's had a day of rest. So, any kind of combination we could see tonight. And I have no idea who they would start. Who do y'all think will start this game?
We've got a couple texts this morning that have shared some different opinions. I could see Connor coming in, Tommy. I just don't expect him to start tonight. I would be very surprised if he started. I could see him at some point maybe pitching in an inning, but I would be very shocked after last night's outing that he ends up starting the game, this final game tonight. Unless
someone gives you 4, 5, 6 innings, at least 4, but more like 5 or 6, I don't think it matters as much who starts the game as who's available to you in the 8th and 9th innings. But I think it'll be Vermillion or Ramage that starts the game tonight.
Wow. Well, that you could be on point
and
there.
It's a pure guess.
But here, Vermillion, as y'all know, Vermillion started for a good chunk of last year. Before we went to the pen. I think Dave worries about him second, third time through the order, but he's a hard thrower, and if you got 3 or 4 innings where he only gave up a couple runs, I mean that's the kind of start you'd want in the conditions that they face.
Yeah, and my rationale is I think they just go with experience, also go with arms you're not going to lean on next year. I just think that Dave has said, and he mentioned it with Phil in one of the pregame chats again this weekend, not only in pitching, but I think also in the lineup card, he's going to put those veteran guys up near the top and give them a chance to sink or swim. Take this team to the next weekend.
Yep, and you cannot fault what the Bats have done in this regional. They had the winning run on base in the bottom of the ninth. It didn't come through there, but otherwise They've scored a ton of runs. They've had a bunch of clutch hits, a bunch of 2-out damage. I think tonight's going to be another shootout. I mean, based on all the data we have from this regional, it's going to be another wild one.
Tom Murphy with us here on the Morning Rush. Tom, changes within scheduling the Southeastern Conference. Basketball is kind of the one that we've touched on this morning. What did you think about the release statement from the SEC this past Friday?
Yeah, it's going to cut down on the amount of teams you play twice in a year, and it's just, you know what it is? It's just a byproduct of what you've decided to do to your league, to go to 16 teams. And yes, it becomes somewhat unwieldy, but at least in basketball, it's easy to play everybody once. But football is where it's just going to be a weird deal, and I don't know what direction they're going to go. I'm sure they're still chewing on that one, and they might be for a little while because it's such a big deal, and who knows, maybe they adopt the format and try it for a couple of years, and it's not the perfect deal that they want. That's what happens. They've decided to go to 16 teams, and then you have to make tough decisions after that.
Tom, what did you think about Dorian Gerald announcing that he is going to enter the transfer portal and come back to Arkansas?
Well, at first I was shocked when I read that he said, "Hey, I'm in the transfer portal," because you think, well, the dude's had 6 years. But then you see he's coming back. And, if he's healthy, I mean, he's the kind of guy, a super veteran, that if he gave you some work, you just feel so bad for the kid because he's been hurt so often. And no, he hasn't matched up to the potential he showed with all his sacks out in California. But if he gave them some quality reps, if he could play 30% maybe of the reps, they could use the help on the D-line. I don't think there's any question about that. I wish him the best of health this coming season.
Yeah. Tom, we'll leave it there. We'll chat with you again on Thursday, and hopefully the discussion will center around a super regional.
Sounds good. Talk to y'all then.
All right, Tom Murphy, Arkansas Democrat-Gazette, Whole Hog Sports. He joins us Mondays and Thursdays at this time here on The Morning Rush.